A Sankarshan Joshi trip.
I figured there's a lot of things going on that you had to get into place to make this happen. Again, I'm so sorry it took so long. I know we've been thinking of it for really long now,
Yes, yes, yes.
and it just wasn't happening. But I'm really glad. I'm so happy to be here. I'm really
I'm so
looking to
happy to
this
have
out.
you here.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All well, all well. How is the current situation? How are you dealing with the current situation
Uh,
outside?
so I had tested like positive for 20 days back. So uh,
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, I study in Bangalore. So like I
I see. Okay.
yeah, so I used to live by myself there. So yeah, like I was
Mm.
isolated there for like 14 days, and then now I'm back home.
God.
I'm in Mumbai. So
Oh, okay. Where are you studying in Bangalore?
PS University. So I'm doing my bachelor's in
Okay.
design. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
How nice. Because I'm applying. I'm actually applying to college in Bangalore as well for my
Oh
master's.
wow. Which college?
Yeah, to Montfort College.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So everything's on hold right now, but yeah,
Yes, it's
hopefully
been
I
like
should
it's become so
have
uncertain.
something. Yeah, it's just you just have to take one day at a time. It's not even planned. You can't even plan for 2 days now. It's literally just one day at
Yeah.
a time. But I hope you're feeling completely better now. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
was
I am.
were the
I am.
symptoms bad or anything, or
I
all
had
good?
fever and cold like for one day, and then after that it was just like
Okay,
slight nose block. So yeah, it
okay,
wasn't that bad. So I got tested
good,
after
good.
a week. So like mentally
Oh,
I was in a place where like I was fine. So had if I got
correct.
tested, then in that mental like anxiety
Immediately,
with
yeah,
fever, like that would have been worse. But yeah.
yeah.
So
Nice. Okay.
so where do you
Please.
stay? You stay in Hyderabad?
I stay in Hyderabad. Yes, I stay in
Oh,
Hyderabad. I've been born and brought up here completely. I did my bachelor's also here itself in St. Francis College. So I did it in psychology.
oh,
And yeah, that's where the bug got on. That's where I completely fell in love with the subject and knew that this is what I wanted to be doing. So yeah, completely. So if I move to Bangalore now to study, that would be the first time I would be leaving. Actually, not the first time. So I did another course in Bangalore. I did a 1 year diploma course in Bangalore. It was a PG diploma actually. It wasn't a full 2 year course. It was just a 1 year course. So it was in sports psychology because that was something I was very, very interested in.
okay.
So yeah, so like sports has been a part of my life since I can imagine. So I went to a school which is known for its huge playground. It's called the
Oh,
Hyderabad Public School. You can look it
okay.
up. But yeah, so it's known for like its playgrounds and its sports facilities and all of that. So sports has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And my parents were very, very, very keen on me always like making the most of having that kind of space. So I was pushed into sports since a very young age, and it was never like I never had to be forced into it. It came very like I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. And yeah, so just catching on to that sports thing, we had a counseling group, like it was a consultancy thing. It's called I forget the name. It was something that our school had hired for us in like 11th and 12th, where they came and they were counseling us on like how you can like what you can do next and
Career
what are the
counseling
courses.
type.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, correct. Career counseling. That's what I was. Yeah. So yeah, so they were just looking at but they would help you with colleges for your undergrad, and like if you're looking to go abroad, what
Okay.
are all the tests you have to give? If you're looking at other cities, what are the tests you have to give there? And all those sorts of things. And I think somebody over there, one of them had mentioned when I told them that I had developed an interest in psychology in the 11th standard.
Oh wow.
And so I knew that that's what I wanted to get into, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. So when I was talking to this one counselor, she had mentioned that, these are the different types of psychology, and you have the usual. You have your counseling, you have clinical, you have organizational, or you have behavioral, you have school, and the last one was sports. The last one on the list was sports. And I was like, wait, what? That's a thing? And she was like, yeah, of course, like you work with athletes and this, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds great.
So it's like
That sounds
two of your
brilliant.
interests like
So
coincided.
yeah, yeah, who would have thought? Like I did not ever think of that happening. So that's how psychology happened. And I then went on. I basically wanted to do my master's in it, but again, I've always been somebody who loses interest in things very quickly. Like it takes a lot. It takes a lot to keep me engaged. So I was just like, man, if I'm gonna leave the country and I go to another place and get myself signed up for this 2 year thing, and I don't like it, I am gonna hate myself because everything I knew about the
Yeah.
subject, because everything I knew about the subject was only based on things I had read off of like Wikipedia or some books
Hmm.
or some articles, and I mean, those are all, I don't know. I don't think it's the most trust trustworthy. And I didn't know anybody who was in the field.
Yeah,
I didn't know
because this
anybody who had
sports
pursued it.
psychology is like pretty new, right? Like, I mean, for,
It is
yeah,
very new.
psychology itself being like pretty new, and that too, like this
Hmm.
niche sports psychology, like I can understand.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I didn't know. So I didn't have any seniors I could reach out to, and like my teachers in college were very helpful, but they also had only like limited information about
yeah.
it. So I found a 1 year like a PG diploma in Jain University, Bangalore.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, so I was like, okay, I mean, it's a known college and it's a neighboring city. And I actually spent a lot of time in Bangalore already. So I was like, so it's fine. I can just like, I won't hate myself as much if I just go there and like see what it's like and see if I like it. And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a brilliant 1 year and I loved my
Could you just
teachers were
like give an
amazing.
insight on like what you studied there, like what exactly is sports psychology? Because uh like me, I this is the first time I'm hearing this. Like I assumed that there might be some mental wellness aspect to fitness, but this is the first time I've
Right.
ever heard the word like sports psychology. So like what exactly is it?
Okay. So sports psychology is it's bec- let's say it's dealing with the athletes on field. It's
Okay.
only with their performance on field and helping them improve their game without any other external or anything else. It's just themselves. It's helping them improve themselves, just using themselves, their mind and their skill
Okay.
without having I think we had a teacher who used to say it's like sports, it's like game enhancer, performance enhancer without steroids. I was like, very dark, but okay, I guess we go with that.
Makes sense.
so yeah, so so that's basically what we do. So we focus on their mindset when they step on the field, once they step on the
Okay.
field. So maybe like there would be some sports psychology. I don't think sports psychology, like sports psychologists, would venture into their personal, like the player's personal life or anything of that sort. If you're dealing with those kind of issues, you would get referred to a counselor or whoever is.
Oh,
So again, you want to make sure you know what your area is and you stick to just that area. You don't overstep your boundaries.
okay.
Because here, a sports psychologist is playing a very tricky role between a counselor and a coach. You don't want to tell the player
Mm,
what their game is and how they should play because that's the coach's job.
yeah.
You only work on improving what is already there. You focus on how they can better themselves and what it is that they can use. So you teach them. So we do this thing called psychological skills training called PST. So over there, we have certain skills that we give the player. The skills could improve breathing techniques, like just uh, if they get too anxious before the start of the
Okay.
competition, how they can calm themselves down. If they're not as if so, all sports require you to be a certain level of excited because you
Okay.
need to have a certain passion in you. You need to have so we call that you could call it aggression. So again, in sport, we use aggression very, very positively. You
Okay.
have to be a certain level of
Mm,
aggression in a sport to achieve what it is that you want. If you're not that much, then it's probably that you're not that interested or You're just not in that headspace for the day. Too aggressive, that it only harms your game. It doesn't do you any good. So again, how you can reach like an optimal level of aggression, again, that differs from person to person. It's not the same. For me,
Yes.
I would require a higher level of aggression for me to hit my optimal performance. You might require a certain lower level. So again, because it differs from player to player, the PSC program that we make also differs. There's no one set program that you can just apply to everybody as like a
It
blanket.
depends on the
Um,
athlete per se. Like it depends
it
on that
depends on it,
individual.
it depends on the athlete, it depends on the sport, it depends on what level you're competing at. There are so many things to take into consideration. Because I mean, you wouldn't want to get like a school, like one middle school child who's going for like a tennis tournament, super amped up, and he's just like running on the court, and you're like, oh, no, 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 that's not what I wanted. So yeah, it depends on the level that you're playing at, and again the sport you're playing. Some sports need you to be more calm, more composed. I think I'd say golf needs you to be very calm and very, very like super in thing, and whereas football would require more aggression, more like you need to run on that adrenaline. Like you need to get that from somewhere. After a
Yes.
point, your energy is going to run out. You need to pull it from somewhere. So yeah, it definitely. So those are the kind of things that we deal with. Then there's also like sports psychologists also help players come back from injuries, because injuries
Oh
are a
yeah.
huge thing for
Yes.
athletes, and it takes a lot to be able to come back on field and not be scared. Basically, you need to get the fear out of you, because once there's one part of the body that's injured, there's a very, very high possibility of the same thing getting injured again, because it's already weak. It's already a certain level of weak. So to be able to push past that and be able to push past the fear that
Fear,
sets
yeah.
in, you you have to work with the player, with the physiotherapist, with the coach. Again, it's a very, very, very collaborative
To
effort.
overcome the
It's not.
mental barrier of
Yeah.
yeah.
So your physiotherapist is going to help you with the physical stuff. Like they'll help you with gaining back your strength. Your coach will help you come back, like get your game back. The psychologist will help you get your mental game back, like make you get your head back into the game, like you should
Hmm.
have had it. Yeah. So that's what sports psychology is. It's very interesting when you get into it, and it's not just sitting and saying yes, you can do it. That no, but yeah, there are a lot of different things that go into it. So again, you have to pick which aspects that you want to look at. You have to get to know your athlete, and you need to see
Hmm.
where they require help the most. Maybe they're really good at calming themselves down and all of that, but they need a little help dealing with just the anxiety of after the post performance, like anxiety of like just before the results, like those. There are other places you need to figure out where it is that maybe they can't concentrate properly. Maybe your athlete has trouble concentrating. Maybe your athlete has a difficult time setting goals and working towards those goals. You need to figure out what the issue is and tackle that.
Okay.
Everything else will happen. So you need to find where it is that they need the most help and support them in that area.
So
That's what
initially
we
you
do.
said that like sports psychology deal with sports and then like their mental state with respect to that game, right? And then so when you
Correct.
say goals, there are a lot of personal things that also affect their performance, like all the personal priorities, their personal goals, which also affect the performance in the
Right.
game. So how do you find a balance between uh, like the person, like how do you draw the line there?
So you would start off with so when you set goals, it's a honestly, setting goals is a great motivator,
Hmm.
because when you set a goal and you achieve it and you can see, just putting it down on paper and ticking it off is a great motivator, and it's very, very, very satisfactory. And when there are days when you're feeling like, man, I'm just nothing is going right today, like I can just feel everything around me collapsing. When you look at all the things you've done, you're like, wait, I did all of these things, so I can get past this as well. It's just being able to, and it's not somebody else telling that, oh, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this also, like don't put yourself down and all. It's literally you looking at things that you have already done, what you have written down, what you have put down. It's all your work. So that's a great motivator. So how we how like how we usually put in setting goals is, you want to set, if you have personal goals, you have to balance it with one professional goal, like something to do with your sport. And there are daily goals, there are weekly goals, there are, like fortnightly goals, or there are monthly goals. You can choose how it is that you want to set those goals, or what it is. But you have to, so we call them, so we were taught this thing called SMART goals. So your goals need to be SMART.
Okay.
It's a acronym. So it's, the SMART is supposed to be specific. Your goals need to be specific. It can't be vague. It has to be very, like this exactly, this is what I want. Then we have M, you want measurable goals. So it needs to be, it again can't be vague. You want to be specific, you want to be measurable. You want to make sure you can compare two things and see like, okay, there was improvement, I have done better. Then we had attainable. You want to start by setting realistic goals. Like you want just like attainable, something that you know your capacity, which is why we ask athletes to set their own goals. You know your capabilities. So do it in that much, set it in that much. And you can always improve on that. You can always push yourself. Start off with just attainable goals. Are realistic. Like I was saying, attainable and realistic. You want to be, again, you know how much you can push yourself, you know how much you can do. Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, you want to be true to yourself. This is not to impress anybody else. It's only to better yourself. And the last one is time based. You have to set a, saying that this is how much time, which is why that's where the daily, weekly, or once in 2 weeks and monthly thing comes in. You're setting yourself a time, saying this is how much time I give myself to achieve this goal. And it can start off very, very basic, saying that, okay, I want to get through my warm up in this much time, or I want to do my warm up, properly in for this much of the duration. Because a lot of times it happens where like once you're about 3/4 into your warm up, you're out of it, and your heart's just like, it's like you're just now you're just doing it to like get done with the sets and not completely. So it can start off with anything like that. So you asked how like you find a balance between the two. If you want to set, it's absolutely fine to want to set like personal goals, but you have to balance it with a professional one, something that you're doing on field, because athletes don't take days off. So you're going to be on field anyway. So set a goal for what you're going to do on field that day. It's as simple as that. Or I think right now with like COVID and things, a lot of it has taken a hit. And so like a lot of the goal setting has become just what can you do in the, like in your own house, like in your space, what is it that you can do which will help
yourself better
once
at sport.
Yeah, which will help you once, whenever things open up, when you get back on field, what is it that will give you, make you get back as close to what your game was when you left. What is it that you can do to try to maintain? Again, it's not going to be the same. It's definitely not. It's going to take time to come back to what it was. But what can you do to, reduce the time that it takes to come back to that?
Yeah, there's a lot of mental space that sport occupies, right? Like, because I don't think like people understand the psychology of people who play sports, because it's a very different mental space. Like when you are playing at it, right? Like it's like, I don't think like people know how different it is, because when you consider, let's say, combat sports, let's say mixed martial arts or boxing, there is a sense of presence that you need to have. Like mentally, you need to be present in that so that you can think of your next move or how to combat with the move that is being in front of you. Plus, they will push themselves physically, which also affects like the mental state at which the player is, right? Like there's a balance between how are they pushing themselves physically to I think like them pushing themselves physically comes from a mental aspect, right? Like being motivated, like going and chasing after something, like, yeah.
Yeah, very true. So it's very important again in sport to be self-motivated, because there's only so much motivation that your teammates and your coach or your support staff and your parents and your like friends, family, all of these people can give. There's only so much. But once you're out there on the field, it's you. It's only you. So
Yeah.
another thing that we were taught a lot is positive self-talk. Like you need to talk to yourself. It's not crazy to talk to yourself. Please talk to yourself. And you want to be able to, you want to be your biggest motivator. You want to be your biggest cheerleader. Because when you're out there, it's only you. That's all. There is nobody else. There's you, and there's all the things that you've learned.
This is also very evident, right? With the sport,
Meaning,
like when it comes to like a lot of sportsmen, they're very evident that they are good at what they do. It's like it's a
correct,
way of self talk, and then like self motivating themselves and
correct,
being best at what they do.
correct. So it's very, very important to have that kind of confidence in yourself. Again, overconfidence is going to just kill it, but it's very, very important to have that kind of confidence in yourself, because if not you, then who? Like, who is going to,
Mm.
if you don't believe in yourself, why? Like, you have to. It's you. You know your sport, you know your skill, you know what you're good at. It's again just being real, it's being true to yourself and not simply undermining yourself. But again, if you simply like over, like, I'm really like the best at everything, then it's difficult to get help from anybody. Like, it's difficult to start to listen to a coach. It's difficult to listen to what your teammates are saying. It's difficult to listen to anything. It becomes difficult. Like, all of that just gets subconsciously blocked out when you start thinking that, oh, like, I'm really like just at the best right now. Like, I'm completely at the
Yeah.
top. So you need to again be able to draw like a line over there where you're like, okay, I know I'm good. I'm good at this, and I might be at my best right now. But what else can I do?
Yeah.
You can be at your own best, but what else can you do? What can you do to stay there? What can you do to improve? Like, there is always scope for improvement. There
Yeah.
is always scope for improvement. So you just need to know what it is that you can do.
Yeah. Plus, I think that mm, a- when it comes to like physical way of expressing themselves, right? Like when it comes to like sport or working out, especially sportsmen, their identity of who they are entirely depends on what they're doing in that sport, right? Let's say I am a really good football player, like I went to like nationals, or I've played here, I've played that. Like if I'm well-known football player, and let's say I'm injured, it's hard for me to get back to that state because I've been identifying myself with that sport. Like
Correct,
that is who I am. Like
correct,
now I don't know who I am.
correct. So again, it's also very important to so it's good to identify yourself as this athlete, but you also need to have like your own identity, like your personal identity of who you are, like as, let's say, Sankarshan. Like, you need to know who it is that you are, because even if football is your whole life, even if football is all of that, if you take that away from you, you can't be left with nothing. Like, there's obviously some substance over there. There still is something. So it's very, very important to still hold on to other things, maybe small little other hobbies or just other parts of your personality. Your personality can't be one dimensional and only be like, yes, football, only football. Like that, it's that's putting too much pressure on yourself, which will only like it I don't there's no good that can come from it. There really is no good
Yeah.
that can come from it. It there's only like downsides to it. So you want to be able
Yeah.
to hold on to everything else that makes you who you are, and this is like just an added part to it. You can't make this You can make this your whole life when you're in a tournament, when you're in the match, when you're all, but outside of that, what is your life? Like, what is
Yeah.
it that makes you you? What is it that you have? So it's very important to take, you know, breaks like that
Yeah. Break. Yeah.
to just do things that you enjoy, that you like doing. And because, yeah, that's what will help your sport, like you
Yeah.
going as an athlete. That's what will keep you going. because it's very easy to get burnt out if you're only going to look at look at yourself as just this athlete and constantly put that pressure on yourself that I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. This is my whole life. This is all I know how to do. This is what it is. Then it's very easy to get very, very burnt out, and you don't want to do that.
It's a very subtle process too, like getting burnt out, right? Like you never know that you'll end up there. So like you'll never know that you're gonna overtrain and you end up there because so I think like that's where the importance of a sports psychology comes in. So I started like working out and I started like getting fully into it, like lifting weights and weight training. Like that has become like one of the major hobbies of mine right now. So like a year and a half back, like when I started lifting weights, so I started it for the right reasons. Let's say like I want to be more, get rid of all my insecurities, be more confident, be more fit. But then slowly, like during the lockdown, this was the only thing that I did. Like working out was the only thing that I was waiting to do. So then slowly I started like overtraining it, or like I started like overdoing it. And that came to a point where if I don't work out for a day, like it made me anxious. So I became like neurotic about it. And it's a very subtle process because like when I started, like I didn't know I was gonna end up there. And like it's a very slow, like if I had someone like I was checking in my personality and checking in with respect to that sport, then maybe I wouldn't have like ended up there. So
it's a very slippery slope, I'd say. Like when you start, you're just like, oh man, like I'm feeling so good, I'm feeling the best about this. And then slowly you're like, what the hell is happening? Wait, no. Yeah. So it is very, that's why it's important to, just take a step back and reevaluate like where you are and why you started, what you're doing, where you're going, what is the next step. It's very, very, that's why again, it comes back to like taking a break and just being like, okay, wait 1 second, take a step back, look at what the situation is, where, where you also, you just look at where you started, where you've come to, like, what were your goals, what are those that have been achieved. And then you're like, okay, good. Like, just tap yourself on the back saying, good, I've made it till here at least. And then, slowly be like, okay, now what do I do next and what? And you need to, it has to be a very, very, very conscious decision to not push yourself to a place where, if it comes to working out, like where you don't want to look at a dumbbell ever again. Just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this. But I think that's happened to a lot of people during lockdown, where they found like one thing that was keeping them going, because everybody had to find something to keep them going. So they found this one thing that would keep them going, and just like it's become like obsessive after a point. Like you're just like, I need this. And it takes time to, I hope you've like snapped out of that and like, it's okay to miss one day of workout and you're better. But it's honestly like, we're dealing with a completely new situation right now. See, in normal times, you wouldn't have the kind of time that you did during lockdown to like go to the gym. Maybe you would have time to go every day, but you wouldn't have probably had the time to like Uber train and completely like drain yourself. But because we've gotten an abundance of time now out of the blue, and none of us know what to do with it, it's all you can do is like you learn from it, where you're like, next time, when you start training beyond a certain point, you're like, wait 1 second, like I shouldn't push past this. You set those very strict boundaries for yourself, where you're like, I don't, like, this is it. Like, I'm drawing my line here and I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to push past this. So again, it's okay to slowly increase the boundary as your threshold increases, but you can't be like, I'm going to set the boundary somewhere there and then God knows you'll make it even halfway there. So again, realistic goals, realistic. You want it to be realistic.
Makes sense because I started representing myself with what I was doing. Like I started associating that with like who I am per se. So I think like that is where the hard times started. plus anxiety is such a tricky thing to deal with. Like, I don't think there is a fixed way to deal with it, because it's a very it's hard to describe, it's hard to express,
Yeah,
but you still have to deal
like
with it.
yeah, you can't put it into words completely. You're
Yeah.
just like, I am feeling it. Now what? So yeah, no, that is that it is for like, and I feel like all of us have gone through some kind of anxiety throughout our lives. We just didn't know it was anxiety. You have like little kids who complain about their stomach hurting when they don't want to go to school before a test or something. And parents are like, just because it's a test you're saying, and because I'm pain, for all you know, it could actually be hurting. But
Hmm.
it could only be because the kid is so stressed about that test.
Yeah.
You have it, like you have people throwing up before exams. You have so many, like all of us, I feel like we just didn't know it was, at least I didn't know it was called anxiety. And like you could like describe, like just one word could describe all of these feelings that you're constantly feeling and like are sitting so heavily on your chest. So yeah, I think it's nicer now that there is so much conversation about
Yeah.
anxiety, and like it's there's so many that it's easier
Trigger
to talk
points.
about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you and you can, it becomes so much easier when you can say that, okay, this is where I get triggered, so this is what I'm not going to indulge in. I'm not going to engage this one thing or like entertain this because this is what triggers me. So
Hmm.
again, I think that being able to set those kind of boundaries comes only as an adult, because otherwise, like as a kid, as a teenager, you're just like, I want everybody to like me, I want everything to happen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like trigger points don't matter, your insecurities don't matter, nothing. Everything is a like free for all kind of thing.
But don't you think like it's different when it comes to like sports and like the anxiety with respect to sports? It's very different, right? Like, because I've felt it. So I've had anxiety before, like general
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, but I had that
Mm-hmm.
anxiety which is like I had to work out. So like if I didn't, like that anxiety was like very, very different.
Right. Yeah, so again, it depends on, I feel like it depends again, individual,
Hmm.
and how where you are in the sport also matters. Like if you're somebody who's doing like decently well, who's like playing well and like, having like a good thing, or like you're a swimmer who's had like a good season, then there's lesser chances of like, I mean, it's the anxiety will probably reduce a little bit. It won't completely go. You still probably will be a little anxious before before you jump into the water every time, but it will reduce a little bit. And
Hmm.
if you're in the same way, if you're a swimmer who's not had a great run, not been doing too well, then it just increases each time before each event. You're just like, man, I messed up last time, I can't mess up this time,
Yeah.
I have to. That I have to becomes very, very, very strong in your head, which is why it's very important to be able to let go of like past performances. Like you need to be able to say, okay, this went badly, analyze what all went
Hmm.
badly, talk about it, put it down on paper, whatever works for you. Just see like, okay, this is what went wrong, this is what I can do,
Hmm.
and ask like, what can I do to, you have so many people who are trying to help you, ask saying like, what can I do to improve this place, what can I do to improve this, and slowly use those in your training sessions, and
Hmm.
then go to the next one. If you're going to carry the baggage of all your previous performances, that is such a strain on yourself so
Yeah.
unnecessarily, that it's difficult for anybody to function under that kind of self
Yeah.
pressure. And you already know there are certain, like, whether they're doing it like consciously or not, there is a certain level of pressure from your coach, from your, like, there's more than
There
pressure,
is
it's just
competition,
expectations.
right? Like this
Yeah,
is
and there's
this, yeah.
expectations. There's competition and there's expectations also.
Hmm.
Competition is at least you have like a bunch of like some six strangers. Expectations is some people, people
Yeah.
you're going to go back home and see. Your competition you face, you don't have to see again.
From yourself, from your coach, they're like, yeah.
Yeah, so you need to. There is, see, a lot of people try, like a lot, and a lot of people are really good at like being like, see, it's your game, you do you. There is no, like, we are not putting any pressure on you. But then at the back of your mind, you're like, man, my coach has put in so much time and effort with me. I need to do this. Like, I need to show him that I'm good. I need to show. you hear, that I've learned what she's taught me and that I'm good and I've been practicing and it needs to, and you give it your all. Again, like we've been told, I mean, at least for me, it's been a constant that give it your best. That's the most we can ask from you is give it your best. Know that you've given your best because, again, circle back to being true to yourself. You've given your best or you've done it half-heartedly.
Yeah.
You can do it half-heartedly and come out and be like, no, that was my best, la la la. Good, no one's going to say anything to you. But inside you, are you sure that was your best? If it isn't, if you know for a fact that that was your best, then that should be satisfying for you.
That best also has like two forms, right? Like physically, have you given your best? Mentally, have you pushed to a point where you've given your best? Like there are like these two dimensions that comes into picture, right?
Correct. So again, I don't think anybody has fully understood how to measure the have you pushed your mental best part because I genuinely don't know how that would be measured or how that would be looked at. But yeah, I think you need to be able to know that. I think I think like pushing to a healthy place of doing your best would be till where you can do it, but after that point, it's just going to like deteriorate your mental health. Like you don't want to push past that point where after this, it's just going to be breakdown. Like you should not have to push yourself past that. You should be able to be like, see, this is where my threshold ends. You want to be like, I know I can get it till here. Maybe like half an inch more also, but more than that, like it's not going to be beneficial because for all you know, it'll ruin your current performance. Then it will play on your next one saying, oh, this happened last time, now it lost, or la la la. It's such a tricky thing to do. Like it might just like carry on to like future things when you had there was no intention of that happening and you were just like, no, I just thought I could try a little bit more. And I want to just push a little bit more time. So it is like, I genuinely don't know how you would measure like being able to do like your mental best.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, I think being able to, as long as you can let go of your past performances and take away the good from it and some learnings from it and implement them, then that should be able to cut down a lot of your
dealing with failures, right? Like to put it differently.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Correct. That's another thing that where like psychologists are supposed to have is coming back from loss. Because it's difficult to it is difficult when so this is the one thing that I always had when I wanted to get into like sports psychology. This is the one thing I used to think about is that it is insanely fascinating and admirable how motivated athletes are. Like it's ridiculous because when you think about it, an Olympic 100-meter sprinter trains for something for 4 years to have it end in less than 10 seconds. Ideally, it has to end in less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That is insane. That is absolutely crazy. And just when you put in that kind of like blood, sweat, tears, heart, soul, everything else that you can think of for 4 years, and it doesn't pay off.
Man,
it's going to be soul crushing.
That's sad.
It's going to be crushing, absolutely. But you train yourself. You have to be able to train yourself to be so insanely mentally strong that you come back from that saying, I will come back to this. Like I will train for another 4 years and I will see you all again. And I think that's absolutely amazing. Insane, so like one of my things to get into sports psychology is if I can play the tiniest part in somebody being that motivated, then that's all I need. Like I'm completely done for this life. Like that's all. Like to be able to play the like 0.0001% also in that motivation and just to, like help them a little forward. Dude, that's insane. Cause I don't even know where you would get that kind of motivation from or how insane like your passion and your love for the sport has to be. So it really is, when you think about it, that is like just functioning on a whole other level,
Another
like
level,
being
exactly, right? Yeah.
yeah, being all consumed by your passion for that sport. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. Yeah, it's horrible when it doesn't pay off, but oh, when it pays off,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful to
You
watch.
live for
It really
moments like
is.
that, right? Like all the losses are worth
Absolutely.
for that one win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just like everything else fades away. Like nothing else matters. It's just that nothing, none of the injuries, none of
Yeah.
all the like painful trainings, all the like early mornings, none of them. When you get that, just like that's all. It's
Yeah.
insane. I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
like,
yeah,
I were aware. I was absolutely aware of like athletes functioning on a different level than normal human beings. That is the reason why I was like super excited to talk to you. Like, I was aware of that, but I didn't know like how exactly uh, are
it
they
has.
different. But it makes sense,
Yeah,
right? Like on a daily basis, can you imagine like someone facing like failures so often as like athletes and like people in a particular
exactly.
sports do? Like it, so if I fail at what I'm doing as much as they fail, mentally I will be at a very negative space. Like I'd be so
Exactly.
demotivated. I'd be reflect
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be reflecting that
Absolutely.
physically too.
Absolutely. It's very like I would say like their mental capabilities are already great. And
Yeah.
I think it's again that differs when you're in a team sport or when you're in like an individual sport.
Mm.
Team sport you still have like your entire team supporting you. You have like how many ever you have you and like six others, seven others. You know how many others? Like you have enough of these people on your side. When you're doing individual sports and it's like swimming, when it's singles tennis, when it's singles badminton. Again, in singles tennis and badminton, you still have like your team with you, even in swimming. But on that field, it's just you. In that match, it was just you.
Yeah.
And to be able to be okay with how it went and then be like, cool, I will be back at training tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock and we will take it again. We will take it from there again. So it does require an insane amount
Yeah.
of passion, motivation, dedication, and just, wanting to, it's that hunger of wanting to be the best at it,
Yeah.
of wanting to be good at it, wanting that win. It's just, that's what keeps you going. It's
It's
like you
also the
said, if
discipline,
anybody,
right?
it's absolutely, like you said, if anybody in like other fields face like the constant failure like you would see in a sport, again, it's amazing that not like athletes don't look at like failure and loss as like just the end of things, but that's just like, okay, what next? How can I improve it? What do I do? Like what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen next time? So just being able to be optimistic about everything
Yeah.
like that is crazy. It's really, really like that. It's amazing. It's an amazing quality to have, honestly. Like whether you're going to continue in sports or not, or you're just going to stay in, like whatever else that it is that you choose to do. If you can just carry that forward into it, then I feel like you're quite sorted. Like you're way above everybody else. You're on a different level from what everybody else is functioning at already.
It's such a strong personality that they have.
Mm-hmm.
That's why almost like most of the athletes, like their speeches, like they motivate so many people, right? Like because their
Correct.
personality has been built up like that. Like it's been built up
Correct.
on failures. It's super radiant. So when you see a
Correct.
successful athlete talk about life or talk about sport, it's it's being reflected from all the experiences that they have been through, and
Correct.
and it's not easy to be where they are.
Not at all. I wouldn't say it's easy. I would never want to trade play. I would never want to go stand still. That is an insane. Like it's so much. It comes from like so much of hard work, and and they still are so positive about everything, and
Yeah.
you're just like, but yeah, I mean that is like a really like cool way to look at it. Actually, I haven't really thought of that, but yeah, for sure. Like it is so much that they're confident. Like they have everything to be confident about now because they've seen everything there is to see, and they've just like
Yeah.
been down, 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 and now they've finally come up to where they are. There is absolutely no reason for them to not be, just like as confident as they are,
Yeah.
or as sure about themselves as they are. So again, that is, I think that is important in your sport, because you want to be sure with the calls you're making and the
Mm.
decisions, like the decisions you're making, the shots you're taking. You need to have like be sure about yourself. And I feel like once you've done it wrong enough times, you're just like, man, there's no other way to do it. I've done it all the wrong ways. This is the right way. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
This is like good. I've tried. I've done all the wrong ways first. Now I've found one way that is working. That's all. So yeah.
This also reflects on their personal life, right? Like being disciplined with when you're good at something, that reflects on your personal life too, right? Like you're disciplined at it, like you don't take failures negatively, like you're
Very
always
seriously.
motivated. Yeah, like they they bounce back from negative space. They also
Yes.
navigate their negativity physically out, and they get back stronger like when they finish their workout session, or when they finished a certain sport. So it's a very different dimension altogether. Like I think every human
It's
being
a
has that, but only few express it.
Yeah, and it's like a lifelong commitment. Like you have
Mm.
decided this is what you want to do, then you are doing it, whether it's summer, winter, raining, whatever it's like outside, whether world is locked down, not, whatever it is, you are still doing everything that you have to be good at your sport. You
Yeah.
don't have the thing of saying, no, it's Sunday, I want to sleep
Yeah.
in. No, it's a holiday, I don't want. There's literally like this whole no days off thing is very, very like serious. Like they don't take days off.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. Like you have that kind of, and being able to, it's obviously difficult getting into that kind of discipline and pushing yourself for that. But I feel after a point it just becomes lifestyle.
Mm.
Like you were saying, it felt weird like when you wouldn't work out for one day, but it just becomes that. Here they're
Yeah.
not like, oh, I have to, but it's just like, I mean,
What
I
am I
would go
doing
right
if I'm
now.
not doing this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Makes
just
sense.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, cool, so this is what my career is, this is what my job is, this is what my work is, so I will do it. I'm not going to
Mm.
like, I'm not going to make excuses for it or find reasons not to. And the weather is not gonna. I'm saying weather because I'm just a very horrible winter person. Like if it's cold, I just don't function. And so that's why I'm so thinking about like, how do you wake up when it's 5 degrees outside and go practice? Please, somebody explain to me. So I'm very that kind, because that was something that like a few people had asked me when like I can go off on these monologues and people ask me about like why sports psychology and things like
Yeah.
that. And I just feel like I love sports so much. Like I love how athletes are. I love everything that it is about them. And I think it's amazing how
Yeah.
they function. And I think like it's very, very, very different from everybody else.
If you
And they'll be
have
like,
to
oh, but
deal
like,
with people like this, if you or like from the past few minutes we spoke about their personality, right? These are the
Mhm.
alpha kind of people, like
Correct.
they are like personalities. So if you have to deal with their mental space and their thoughts, that means you have to
Yeah.
be at a very different level.
No, it's not even that. So for a lot of people used to just be like, oh, then why don't you just, like you also play this sport, or so why don't you just become like an athlete? I'm like, I have no discipline. I have none. I have zero discipline. So I will just be the side like support that I can do very, very brilliantly. So it's amazing. Like I'm always amazed when I see athletes like waking up, whatever it is, and like getting out there on the ground and doing what they have to. It's beautiful to watch. It's
Mm.
beautiful to watch, and it's very, very like heartwarming seeing that, it's just they're so dedicated and it's so passionate about it that it's not even a question about like, oh, should we or like shouldn't we? It's just like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That's all. It's
So
like one statement and
it's like
done with
eating,
that.
sleeping. It has become a part of their routine, and it is,
Routine, yeah,
yeah.
it is. So it's not even something that, and nobody like they're the kind that won't make like excuses, like whether it's
Mm,
trips or traveling, going out, all of those take a back seat. Like their training comes first. For everything, like training
yeah.
is priority. That's all. And it takes a lot. Like it's so many sacrifices.
Yeah.
Being an athlete is so many sacrifices, whether it's personally, you sacrifice a lot of things. Your family, maybe like your friends, your family, everybody makes a certain number of like sacrifices. You probably don't do as many trips with your friends. You probably don't go out as much. You don't get to spend as much time with your family. You don't. You have made this one
Yeah.
thing like your main goal right now. So it takes a lot of dedication. And
Yeah.
yeah,
There are
they
people who
would
are
need that.
successful in other fields too, right? Like let's say actors, or let's say uh, businessmen or entrepreneurs. They're all successful, and we
Mhm.
most of the people, we have careers in. We make career out of our intellect, right? Like let's say I'm doing my bachelor's in
Correct.
design. If I get a job, or if I'm doing something, or if I'm starting up my own business, or anything, it has to do with my intellect, right? Like I have to think,
Mm-hmm.
will this work or will this not work?
Yeah.
But there is not a lot of physical exertion happening there. But when it comes to like sports, right, they have to be on their top game in two levels: one, their mental game; two, their physical game. But
Correct.
I can be up on my mental game, and I can make a successful career out of it. Like let's say any businessman, if he is mentally, if he is on a on point game, then he can be successful. But like sports, it's
Correct.
not like that. This mental thing has to transform into physical. You have to be excellent at these two aspects, which is not easy at all. Like physically
Correct. Which is why
exerting. Yeah.
takes so much training, so much practice, so much of hard work and just constant hours that you put into it day in and day out just to have that, because you need to be again you I think first is where it's most important to be calm in a crisis. Like you can see that everything is going down around you, like your team is not, you probably are not going to win the match, but you can't just give up and be like, okay, I'm done playing,
Yeah.
you take it and go, I'll go home. You want to still be, when you're captain, you still want to be calm and make certain calls saying, this is what we're going to do, this is what our game plan is going to be, this is how we're going to do it. And you need to be able to, again, I think there's a lot more of that on the captain, because if the captain starts like fumbling and like getting stressed and like losing confidence, then that's going to reflect on the whole team.
Whole team. Yeah.
So you would want to, just to be able to hold everybody together, to keep everyone like in the same headspace. You would have to like make, even when your body is just like tired and you're physically exhausted, your mind still has to keep running. Like your mind has to still be like, okay, this is what we have to, this is how. And one is making the best use of your teammates, like the best use of all the skills that you have on field with you. And also because you understand that you are physically exhausted, you need to see how you can best use yourself also.
Yeah.
Like where are you the most efficient right now?
Yeah.
So you need to be able to figure that, like having
Channelizing
to think
their
of
energy. Yeah.
all of those. Yeah. And like, I mean, how much is your coach going to yell from you from outside? When you are on the field, you are
It's
making
all
those
up to you.
calls. And you can't let your mind go like into a spiral. Like it's so easy to spiral in these
Yeah.
situations where like this is not happening, this is not happening, this is not this. It's so easy to spiral. But to just catch yourself before you spiral and be like, okay, this is the situation, this is what needs to be done, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
To be able to, sit and just make those calls. Yeah, it's a lot, dude. I have so much respect for athletes. I
Yeah,
have so much respect
same.
for them. It's yeah, it's not
It's
even
not
a
easy.
thing.
Like a lot of people when they look at athletes, right? And when they think of
Mm.
like sports psychology, like I'm pretty sure like whoever listens to this, like their mindset towards this is gonna change for sure. Like now I evidently know like why there is a need for sports psychologists, because man, like in order to deal with their mental space, you have to be well equipped yourself. Like there is no way you're gonna
Yeah,
deal with them uh like how you deal with normal people, because their things are like they're very strong, right? Like with respect to their
yeah,
thoughts or their mentality, it's very strong. And even if it's negative aspect also, it is like strong. Like, to change that and channelize it into something positive is also hard. So yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah, it
fascinating.
definitely is. So that's one of the reasons I chose this, and I still need to. There is still so much more to learn before I can
Mm,
fully get like on field and practice all of this. So this is all the things I've gotten from observing and internships and like talking to friends and things like that. So again, you want to make sure that you are completely equipped. Again, it's
mm,
so easy to just like go in and be like, yeah, I'm now like here to like help you and things like that. But that can just mess with
yeah,
them. Like if you're not completely sure about what you're doing and you don't have all of the skills and know how to deal with it and you don't have like a good foundation, then it's very easy to just like mess with what the athlete is thinking, because they are looking at you like you are a trained professional.
yeah,
And if you don't have all the required, whether it's skills or whether it's whatever it is that is required, if you don't have them and you go into it, you still dive into it head first, then it's
yeah.
very easy for everything to go downhill from there. Which is why
Mm,
it's very, very important that whatever field in psychology it is, like people talk about, just uh, there are mental health coaches and there are a lot of uh, things like this, but you need to make sure that you're verifying what it is that they do and what their background
mm,
is and how it is. I think that's important for everybody, because one bad experience with a therapist
yeah.
can first make your like whatever
Yeah.
you're going through make it worse, and second, it just makes you lose faith in the entire fraternity completely, and it's
Yeah.
difficult to go back to like another therapist and work on these things. So yeah, it's
Going to a psychologist, going to a psychologist takes effort, right? Like a lot of people consider like going to psychologist as something negative,
bad,
right? Like yeah, like we don't.
weak.
Yeah. It's like uh, growing up. Like my parents or grandparents, you would only go to a psychologist if you are a mental patient, like if you are totally mentally abnormal, like that is when you go to psychologist, right? For a longest period of time,
Yeah,
psychologist has been associated with like mentally ill people.
ill.
So now going
Correct.
to a psychology, like I'm glad that we have come to a place where we are openly talking about things, and there is visible progress. That things are moving there. You overcome all these barriers and you go to a psychologist and you have a bad experience. Man, it's hard to like go back
Come
again.
out of it. Yeah, exactly. You're already dealing with something. Now you've gone to somebody who promised to help you. They have only messed it up more. Why will you go back? Nobody, nobody, no sane person will go back. But
Yeah.
it's difficult. You just have to like push past that and, have faith that there are very, very, very good counselors out there who are
Mm,
doing a great job. But you just like you need to verify the information that you're getting. Like whatever it is, whoever it is that you're approaching, you have to just constantly, re-verify and check. And like you can ask, yeah, I think you can ask for like credentials and like what it is and all of that, and then make a call for yourself, because you don't want to you're choosing to be vulnerable with somebody. You don't want that to backfire, because
yeah.
when that happens, you're less likely to do it another time. And feel of no, that's what, no, like you're saying, in the field of sport, like you're already dealing with like so many other things on the side. Now you're like, okay, here I'm approaching somebody that I need a little help with, and that person doesn't, and it just like makes you feel worse, and you're like, okay, I guess I have one more thing to just add to my already piling up list of like mountain of issues here. So no, and like you said, since there are so many different aspects to how an athlete functions, to have suddenly like somebody who was supposed to help like not be as helpful or like not in the direction. See, a, it's not necessary that a good psychologist will only help you the way you see help. If when they're good, he helping you see right now because so consumed by everything else. So you don't have to see results immediately, but you need to be able to tell like you're going somewhere. So yeah, it is again, they just like it's just different for everybody and like based on like their experience and what it is. But it's very important to just like verify and be sure about where it is you're getting your help from. You want to get it from a certified, qualified, like individual. You want to make sure it's that, because again, the certifications and qualifications don't come very easy. So if they have those, then they put in the hours. So yeah. So that is I think that is very important, because now that we are the country opening up to the idea of therapy and psychology, you can't have it go back again, where like people have these bad experiences and then like go back into their shell. We're finally opening up to it. We can't have it like go back like 20 steps again.
I think almost average every person can go to therapy, and therapy will help them. Like even you think you're in a pretty good mental space, there are a lot of trauma that people carry which they're not aware of. So
for sure, that you don't even know about. You didn't even know you had. Yeah. No, therapy, honestly, you should just like, we need to stop doing therapy as like, oh, something that you do when like things go bad and horrible. It's honestly just like a conversation with a third person.
It could be like a general physical checkup. It could be, it could be just like that.
Exactly, absolutely. Like how we go, right? We like once we hit a certain age, you're just like, I want to get like maybe like once a year or once in 6 months, you want to get like general, like a blood test done. You want to get like a full body like checkup done. Just make sure that everything is going well. That's literally how it is. Just like a mental health check-in, making sure that okay, all parts of your brain are also, or like your thoughts and your feelings and everything are working fine. That is how it needs to be looked at, and I think we're slowly making our way there, and it is very, very nice, and I think it's a great time to be in the field right now, because there's so much to learn, there's so much changing, there's so much to learn, there's so many opportunities, and it's just so much little by little. So yeah, it is a good time. You can see the change happening. That's basically like, that's not, I don't think our generation has that many fields left where you can see the change happen like in front of you. I think that's all been done already by our parents and our grandparents. So we're getting like, this is one of those where you're getting to see it evolve right now. So it's nice.
So like initially we spoke about like the anxiety part that the sports psychology deal with the athletes, right? And then we spoke about like the injury, coming back from injury, that is a different mental space. So what are the like different aspects of psychology? Like, is there any other aspect to it? Like,
so there is attention, there is like concentration and attention, being able to focus during your game. You want to be able to focus on what is at hand and not get distracted. Again, a sport has so many distractions. You have your coach yelling at you from the side. You have your teammates cheering. You have, if you're playing in a stadium, there are fans, there are lights, there can be media. There are so many distractors when you think about it. And being able to block all of that out and focus only on what you want takes a lot. So there are like, there's concentration on like attention improving. And yeah, there are like ways to get yourself anxiety or like, recharge, like you want to, it's called, like I said, like the aggressiveness, right? When you are playing, So to how you can either reduce that or increase that, and how you have that in your control. And then there's this one really cool thing that we do. It's called imagery. So
Okay.
there's so it's like imagination, but it uses all five of your senses. At least we do the best to use all five of our senses. So we ask the athlete about, where it is that they, what place makes them the most calm, and where it is that they feel
Mm.
at the most peace. So then suppose you say it's a beach. So then you want to say, okay, close your eyes, picture yourself at a beach. Then you can feel the sand, soft sand under you. You can taste the salt in the air. You can smell the ocean, and you can see this waves. You can see this water, and you can see the sand. And as far as you can see only sand. You can hear the waves crashing. So here you use all five. So you want
Mm.
to make the image so clear of where they
Holistic.
are that it feels like they are there.
Mm.
It feels like they are there. So imagery works a lot for athletes who have been injured and can't get onto the field, or who for some reason are not able to make it for training, or have taken a break from their sport. So being able to image, or like imagine yourself in your in the middle of a game, and imagine exactly what is happening, what your reaction to it is, how your body is positioned, how you're reacting, what is the setting around you, what are the sounds you can hear,
Mm.
what is the taste in your mouth, and all of this. So imagery is actually something that we use quite a bit with our players, because once you want to imagine, we want you to imagine exactly how your body moves, like how your arms move. If you're a
Mm.
Again, if you're a swimmer, you want to imagine how your arms are moving, how your legs are moving when you're coming up for a breath, when you're going back down, and when you're doing the turn, and how you're pulling yourself forward. So you're working all of your muscles,
Yeah.
though you're physically not on the field. So mentally, you're working all of your muscles, and it really does help when you've made the image. Each time you do it, the image becomes more and more clear, because you can add more details to it.
Mm.
Every time you can add a certain new detail. And I think when you do that enough times, you start replicating it when you physically do it as well.
Oh, wow.
You've done it when you've practiced it enough times in your head, and you've gone over that image constantly in your head. You replicate it, right, very, very closely once you get on the field. So that's another thing that is
The
used.
process of doing that, like they
Correct,
adapt to that process and they reflect it on the field, right? You need
correct.
such a
So
good you need such
continue.
a good presence of mind, right? Like, because mentally and physically, let's say you want to in a game of football, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
receive a pass, if a player passed the ball to you,
Mm-hmm.
if you mentally know that the person has passed the ball and your body is not reflecting to your thought, then like there's a gap, right? So it's like it's a very fine balance where like you're mentally, physically, you're in the moment and they're functioning together, like not against each
Right.
other. They're in the
Yeah,
same
but like they
direction.
know exactly which way,
Yeah.
how it has to be. And even when you get, probably when you're receiving and it hits you a little bit wrong, like it hits your foot a
Mhm.
little bit wrong, or just a little bit, but you don't immediately react to the pain. You
Yeah.
first focus on like passing it somewhere else, and then you're like, okay, shit. So not, so your first, like your priority, your first thing is like, I need to get that ball like in that direction.
Mm.
So yeah, it does. It takes a lot of. It's very, very, very fascinating when
Yeah,
you
it
get
is.
into like the details of it. It really is. Yeah.
Even if you see from combat sport also, right? Like let's say there's
Mm-hmm.
this thing called like muscle memory, it kicks in. So sometimes if you're playing, you even before your mind thinks of some move, your body already goes it because it is used to that particular pattern. And
Correct.
yeah, so many
Correct. See, that's
fascinating
also
things.
where that's also where like muscle memory, imagery, all of these work in the same. It's like you've done it, you've like practiced it so many times that you're going to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
going to go in that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
So when someone
that's all.
thinks of shooting a football into the goal, when they just think of it, they can actually picture their entire body doing that. Like because they have
Each muscle, like how each
yeah.
muscle is moving, where your arms are, where your legs are, how you're kicking it, what, like how exactly what
Yeah.
part of your foot you're using, how it is, and all of that, everything. Like it is, as the more and more you do it, the more and more detail you can get into.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah, it's said to be of a lot of help.
I am pretty sure that this like psychology and especially sports psychology is going to be a mainstream word like in a couple of years. Like I am pretty sure of it because there is this thing is of so much importance and and you are so passionate about this field.
I
It's pretty
really,
yeah.
I really, really, really am. Like I don't know, it just makes me so happy. It really does.
Mhm.
And like just wanting to know more and more about it and wanting to constantly learn and be better and things like that. Because at the end of it, you know that somebody else is depending on you for this.
Yeah.
And you do not want to disappoint that, especially when there's somebody that you know, when like you have so much respect for athletes and the sport and all of that, then that's not something you want to do. Like
Yeah.
you want to make sure you can give it the best. So that is, I really hope this does become more mainstream and
I'm
we
sure
have
it will.
more
Yeah.
sports psychologists in India, because I think there's a huge need for them at all levels, at different levels. Like at the school level, you wouldn't want, you know, a lot of schools put pressure on their school teams to like perform, saying that,
Mm.
oh, you know, we've always gotten this trophy and you have to this. Some batches of kids have good players, some don't. You can't
Yeah.
put them through that. And a lot of kids also pick up sport in school and
Mm.
carry that forward as a career.
At a young age,
So
yeah.
how they shouldn't get burnt out at the school level, and how they need to like, you know, like balance it out. And in school, how much, however important sport is, you know, your academics are equally important. So you know you have two things you have to focus on. So you know, at the school level you have that requirement. At a college level, again, universities have this whole thing like, oh, we have this reputation of like this, we
Yeah.
have to win like this. You don't want that to happen to them there. Then slowly when they make a career out of it, how not to burn out. So there are so many different levels to it also. So there
Yeah.
definitely is. And expecting like school counselors or, you know, just like therapists and other counselors to help with this also is putting so much pressure on them. Like they're already
Mm.
dealing with all these other issues, and now this is something that they aren't completely sure about. And so I think it is very, very important that we have like a more
True.
specified of like, you know, something that's more only that is to do with this field. Because in other, for everything else, we have like a specific psychology. We have organizational, which is only for like companies and businesses and offices and employees.
Mm.
You have schools and like child psychology for like children and adolescents and things like that. You have so many. You have like marriage counselors. You have health psychology. You have things for like different areas. So you
Yeah.
should, I feel like sports is a big enough thing in India for it to have like its
Yeah.
own place now.
Yeah. Because it's one aspect of a human being, right? Like how marriage counselor focuses on the relationship aspect of a human being. It's like me as a human being, I'm so multidimensional that me in a particular sport, I have a different personality while I'm at it. And me in a personal
Correct.
relationship, my personality is different. So at each stage, a person dedicated to deal with that part of human nature
Correct. That's exactly
makes sense.
what that is, what it is that you need right there, what it is that will help
Mm,
you the best over there.
yeah. I am one of the things that I love talking to psychologists is you're the third person that I've talked to. I've talked to
Right.
Neha Tapari. I've talked to
Apurva.
Yeah, I've talked to Apurva,
Yeah,
and it's so
correct.
fascinating because you guys love what you do, and you guys know
Yes.
the importance. You guys know the importance of this particular field. So, like, you bring in awareness in general to that field, like not just to yourself. So that is
Yeah.
like beautiful.
Yeah, I think it like we're all just so passionate and we love this field so much that, we want to do everything that we can possibly do and like in our own abilities to be the best at it that we can or make the most out of it and help as many and like, all of that. I think that's one thing that we have because I think that's one important thing. You need to love this field to like get into it because it's not something that you do for money or fame or any of those. It's literally just the love for the subject. It's
For the right
that's like the
reasons.
main part of it. Yeah. And the main part that is like such a important part of it. Because otherwise you're going to like get bored of it so quickly or you're going to get tired of it so quickly. And that's not fair to you or to your clients. So you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah.
It was lovely talking to you. I really learned so much. It was
I'm
abs-
so glad. I'm so glad. I did too. I did too. I got to see a lot of different perspectives from what you mentioned. I'm so glad. I'm so glad we finally made this happen.
Yes. And I'm glad it did. So I hope we do this again sometime in the future when we get in like different perspectives and we get to talk
For sure.
different
For
things.
sure.
Yes. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Sankarshan. It was lovely speaking to you.